Welcome to the July 11, 2024 Southeast Polk Board Meeting. Karen, can I go ahead and get roll call?
Brett,
Here?
Bridget,
Here.
Kelly,
Here.
Lori,
Here.
Rick,
Here.
Whitney,
Here.
Chad,
Here.
So get a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Whitney had it.
Okay,
There is one change.
one change.
We need to omit 3B, the ISAS data report. We'll bump that to August. The Department of Ed has not released any more data since our last report, so we're waiting for that.
Okay, everybody good with the changes?
Yep.
Change your motion.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
There you go.
Second.
Thank you. Karen?
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes. All right, 1C, District Vision and Mission. Do I have any volunteers?
I will.
Thank you.
Southeast Polk Community School District will learn, lead, live. Success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Thank you very much. All right, 1D, if you'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now's the time for if anybody out there would like to make some public comments for anything that's on the agenda or not on the agenda. You'd have 3 minutes. Looks like we got a bunch of people storming the podium. So slow down, back up, one at a time. Anybody? No? All right, seeing none. We'll move right along. 1F, consent agenda. Make a motion to approve.
Second. I have something I want to say. I'm just letting you know before you have her do roll call.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. First, thank you to those leaving. We appreciate the time and years that you dedicated to Southeast Polk. Also, a very big welcome to all the new staff that's coming on to join us at Southeast Polk. And also a question on open enrollment. Do we have any grade levels that are closed at this time?
Not officially at this time. We're keeping a very close eye on kindergarten. That one is very close, if not. But other than that, all other grade levels, case by case basis.
Okay, very good. That's it.
Anybody else have questions for administration real quick? All right, Karen?
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
All right, 2A will be our confirmation of our next meetings for August 8th and August 22nd. And it shows Black and Gold will be on August 15th, or actually should be August 20th, right?
22nd, I think.
I think Black and Gold is actually August 20th. Can someone check on that really quick?
Yeah.
Is it Zoe?
Tuesday.
And
August
just so
20th.
you know, Zoe, you don't have a
Type in
voting right, but you
anytime.
can say anything that you want.
Yeah, it's the 20th and then the 22nd is the meeting.
All right, so I guess did somebody make a motion on that already
Motion to approve the confirmation of August meetings
with the change of August 20th is Black and Gold?
with the change of August 20th as Black and Gold.
Not telling you how to make your motion. just-
I need all the help I can get.
Okay, since it's on here, we want to make sure we change it. So,
Second.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Karen?
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
two B, the fiscal year 25 legislative priorities. That's listed in your documents.
I'll move that we approve the top 4 legislative priorities for the 2025 legislative session.
Do you mind listing those just for the record? So people know.
You bet.
Thank you.
Priority 1, mental health. Priority 2, student achievement. Priority 3, school safety. And priority 4, early literacy.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you. Any questions on those? All right, Karen?
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
All right, two C. Hopefully this will be our last one. It's our return to learn plan from, clear back from COVID, if you remember those days. If you don't, we can spend some time and share thoughts and stuff. Anybody? No, let's move on. Yeah, you have questions or before you,
Remember, this was a federal requirement to receive funds through September of this year, so this will be the last time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Karen?
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Two D, this is agreement for arbiter pay. This is through athletics. It kind of helps make payments if you didn't.
Motion to approve the 3-year agreement with Arbiter Sports for the processing of the payment to officials for activity competitions using Arbiter Pay.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Karen?
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Thank you. Two E, this is the photography contract for fiscal year 25.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Nope. Karen?
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yeah. Yes. For the second.
Always better be safe than sorry.
That's true.
Just in case you had second thoughts.
That's right.
All right. Two F, this is to set a public hearing for the date and plans of specs for the new district office. Looks like it will be August 8th.
I move that we set the public hearing for August 8th, 2024.
Second.
Second for plans and specs for the new district office.
Any questions for administration on that? Hearing none. Karen?
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Okay, two G, this is the set a public hearing to make a change for a 24-25 academic calendar. Dirk sent out I'm sorry, Dr. Lutnick sent out a email the other day about the homecoming week thing, so I think they got a resolution for that. So this will be for that, and
Motion to set a public hearing on August 8th to discuss the academic school calendar for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
thank you. Any questions? Okay. Karen?
Brett,
Yep.
Bridget,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
All right, moving into items, topics for discussion of the superintendent's report.
Good evening, board. Some good news and highlights from the last month, which seems like we just were here having this meeting and summer just flies. Want to start out by just recognizing that tonight is our student board representatives' first meeting. Zoe Hins is here, student council president. Welcome. We joked and told her that she had a 10-minute speech. You really don't.
You're gonna give in so soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to some other highlights. If you had not seen over the last couple of weeks, our high school musical production of Matilda from this past school year was a big winner at the Iowa High School Musical Theater Awards. Won for outstanding musical production, outstanding student orchestra, special recognition for the ensemble cast. Two of our principal roles received the Outstanding Performer Awards, Shay Baxter and August Now. And special recognition was given to Griffin Sutton, Maddie Davis, and Grace Corwin. So they racked up, and it was a great show. Hopefully with the few of them that are still around, we can maybe get them in here. That's equivalent to a state championship, I think. So. Summer activities are winding down. In fact, we're now officially entering into tournament season. Starts tomorrow night for the baseball team. Had another large contingent of DMAC students of ours honored. Our high school students receiving DMAC credit, 190 total. 83 were on the president's list, which means they had a 4-point grade point average. And 107 were on the dean's list, which means 3.5 or above. So hats off to those students. It's been a busy summer of professional learning already for our staff. Just a few examples: grading, early literacy, Leader in Me. We've had lots of people doing lots of things, improving their craft, getting ready for the upcoming school year. Some upcoming dates, and I'll send these to you tomorrow in my weekly report, but just I know that your planners, we've talked about July 25th, ribbon cutting for the middle school. July 28th through August 4th is Family Week. There's no activities in the district during that week. August 12th is the new teacher luncheon in the high school commons. August 14th, all staff return. August 15th is our big welcome back kickoff. August 16th is Southeast Polk Night at the Ballpark at the Iowa Cubs. And the 23rd, of course, is the first day of school. So it's coming up on us already.
Do you know what time the ribbon cutting is? What time?
We're looking at 10 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I'll send more details on all these things so that you have it in print as well. Any questions?
All right,
Thanks.
all right, 3C. Or the new B, I guess we could call it, energy management discussion. So we're gonna have our energy manager come up, and
You bet.
it's been a while since we've had this conversation, so we thought it'd be time to see how much money we're saving to the district.
Thank you. Haven't used one of these, so we're gonna see how it goes. Good evening. I'm pleased to be able to report to the board about our energy management conservation and what we are doing and what we're planning to be doing. My name is Jamie Cole, and my husband and I have lived in the district since 1999. And after our youngest graduated in 2019, I started driving the school bus for our district. And then in October of 2022, I started this position. So our district has a long history of working to conserve energy and steward our resources well for our taxpayers. And so I'm excited to serve in this capacity and encourage others to be good stewards of our energy resources. So let's start with just a brief history of our energy story. Back in 2001, our district signed a contract with Energy Education. Now it's named Energy Cab, to monitor energy consumption and costs through computerization. The three main goals at that time were to conserve energy, to save the renewable resources for our planet, to maintain quality learning environment for our students, teachers, and staff, and to save dollars so they could be reinvested in other activities. In 2014, our energy conservation policy was approved that encompassed students and employees to contribute to energy conservation in our district, with our head custodians, principals, and teachers at the forefront of the energy efforts of our district. So here's what it looks on a day-to-day. At the end of each day, we ask staff to unplug items like lamps, radios, and fans. We also ask staff to shut and close their blinds put their clever touch in sleep mode, turn off their lights, and shut their door. Each month, I walk through the buildings and record what I see in the energy report, which is sent out to buildings and grounds, custodians, the building leaders, which are usually the principals, and then to each of you. In addition, I enter the utility bills for each of our buildings into our Energy Cap web-based platform, which can be used to measure savings through utility bill tracking, analysis, and reporting. We use Energy Cap to help eliminate bill errors, monitor usage and cost, and provide tracking of our data over the years through benchmark comparisons. So we do have some energy busters. I flip my page. So one of them is an energy vampire. And it's called that because it uses energy, even if it's off, because it will have like a backlight on it. So things like that, microwaves, vacuums, radios are examples of energy vampires. So that's why we ask staff to unplug at the end of the day. We also ask that personal items like Keurigs, refrigerators, Senti pots, and plug-in air refresheners be left at home because they are extra energy busters. However, our special education rooms, preschools, and kindergartner rooms are all exempt from refrigerators and microwaves, so they can have those in their room. One of the advantages of using Energy Cap is that it alerts and flags bills that do not match the normal usage or cost of that meter. So that alerts me to just look at it closely to make sure that there's not an error. And if there's something that I need to contact and communicate with buildings and grounds so that they can take a further look at it. Now, not only do we see energy conservation from our staff, but we also want to incorporate energy conservation with our students. Leader in Me is one of the avenues we're working towards involving students to understand the importance of energy conservation and leading the way. For example, helping their classrooms with energy end of the day shutdowns, weekend and long break shutdowns. Mr. Bala shared with me that the middle school will be continuing their Leader in Me at the new Energy Savvy Middle School and creating its very own energy manager to help with awareness about energy conservation and explore energy saving opportunities. Last fall, I spoke at the junior high during a Wednesday morning teacher meeting to promote energy conservation by explaining our goals and expectations regarding stewardship of our resources. We looked at ways that junior high students can lead by example. Helping with end of the day shutdowns is a great way to build leaders. We are in the beginning stages of developing ways and exploring avenues to come alongside the students and teachers and give opportunities to learn about energy consumption and conservation. So that's something that I plan to begin soon. An essential part of our energy management is communication with our staff. I regularly communicate and meet with the buildings and grounds crew. Gary, Kim, and Tyler are an important piece in the management of our energy program. As we continue to grow and add new buildings, communicating, collecting data, and understanding how to manage and use the data is important in conserving our resources from the top down. Working on our energy efficiency in the use of technology to use less energy to perform the same function is vital to the success of our energy program. I also communicate with the building leader, who's usually the principal, by sending them monthly reports, communicating with their staff through electronic flyers about long break energy shutdown reminders, and also meeting with them each summer to assess the last year and see what changes need to take place to help the communication and implementation of our program. I am also working with Jim Piper to investigate and look at ways to incorporate what is available to engage our students and increase their energy conservation knowledge. So continually keeping energy conservation at the forefront of people's minds will hopefully help develop an awareness of conserving energy that then will lead to taking steps to conserve energy. During the school year, a couple times a month, I have an energy reminder that shows up on my SEP page. And you can see a couple of examples of the flyers that were used over this past year. We also have an energy conservation guideline sheet under the district form in quick links that make it easy for staff to see the information. Another one of my roles is to meet with new employees and to print their key card badge. So while I'm taking their picture, I have an opportunity to discuss the district's desire to conserve energy and be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. So I hope from this presentation tonight that you have gained an awareness of the efforts we are pursuing to conserve our energy resources. It takes a team effort, not only from our staff, but also by including our students. Building leaders who understand maybe why opening the blinds during the day and closing them at night really does make a difference. Or sparking an interest in why the HVAC system operates more efficiently when the doors are closed. These are just two examples of how we can build future leaders. The little daily habits that we choose to make together as a team can really make an impact. In fact, since the board approved to start this energy program in 2001, with the changes that have been made by our staff, buildings and grounds, and the energy managers before me, according to Energy Cap, our district has cost avoided over $10 million. So that's really exciting. And that's it. Thanks for letting me share tonight.
I was gonna ask you, I'm like,
Yeah.
way long ago, we were 2.5 million, so I wanted to know the number, so I'm glad you had it.
Yes, we get to know more.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Yes,
Yeah.
very.
Thanks, Jen.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Jamie, really quick, and Lori may know this, what year did this actually start? Because I know it started when I wasn't on the board.
Well, it's in 2001.
Is that what?
That when it was
The-
off the ground, that's the information I had.
We've always been doing it. I mean, I came on in 2007, so it was going on then. At that point, we were at $2 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
So I think that it originally started in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay, it seemed like it was before that, but I'm.
Okay. Well, I'll
You're the
check
keeper
with
of the record.
Jamie
I'm-
and see if we can find any.
We hit
Paper
right after I had started, they hit 2.5 million, so.
I didn't know if it was when Lori was gone, when they were just burning the candles or something.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
I missed last meeting, so I didn't get my Lori pick.
He's got double jabs to
But
give
this-
today.
All love, all love. All right. Item 3D, our enrollment projections. We have a visitor in that's been doing some stats for us for the few years. So welcome back to Southeast Spoke.
Hey, welcome, Lori. You still look as young as last.
Oh,
time,
thank
so-
you.
so-
That's how you do it, Brett.
I know my wife is with me, so hey, I'm gonna go over stuff really in brevity, but some things that I want you to understand that's happening with your enrollment. So first to begin with, congratulations on this new middle school building. I know that's been a huge dream for a long time, right? So that's really exciting stuff. You all, many of you are familiar with me. We've been working with your district throughout different years for a little over 14 years. So tonight I'm giving you an update on what we think will happen with your projections over the next 5 years. In the official report that you get, there's going to be a lot of key information, some details, or even in greater detail than what you have in the excerpt. So what I'm going to give you is kind of a little bit deeper dive, and so you can understand some of the things that go into what we do for our projections, so you have confidence in what our outlook is. The full report has 4 parts to it that kind of are broken out in different contingents to understand what's happening in part 1 with enrollment and demographics, part 2 with development and growth trends, part 3 is the projections, and then part 4 is next steps. So some of the things, if I just look at this from that 100,000 foot perspective, your executive summary, we do believe your enrollment is going to continue to increase. And I'll talk about a few of those points just so you have some confidence in that as we look at that over the next 5 years. So growth by about a little over 400 students. We do think there's some different challenges with your capacity that are going to be addressed with this great configuration change, but we need to be planning for some of our next facilities. There's lots of housing growth. I'll show you a few visuals in that regard. Everything that we do for your district comes down to geography. So this first visual provides you the district map. So the purple line is the district boundary. All of our maps, we have some insets down on the bottom left, so you can see the entire district. We typically zoom into where the core areas of students are, so it's going to be predominantly in Altoona and Pleasant Hill. We know there's Runnels and Mitchellville, right? So they're definitely a part of what's happening. We have to understand how that relates to our existing elementary boundaries. And of course, we further break it into planning areas that are smaller than census blocks. You probably have heard that back in 2020 with the census population, decennial census. So we're looking at things as it aggregates to a smaller level to understand what are yield rates with single family, multifamily, mobile homes, and so on. All that goes into a statistical forecast model so that it's understood how do all of these variables interact to be able to say we're going to have 10 kindergartners in one area versus 12 fifth graders. Visuals to help you understand the model if you're not a math person. This visual just helps you understand if you don't hit the projection, why did it not? Is it something that happened that would have made the enrollment larger or small? So when you read the full report, it's pretty cool. Live birth data. This is one of the variables that we really look at a lot. It's been quite a bit in the news because we've seen birth rates decline and they've continued to decline overall with things that are happening that we can control for and some that we can't control for. When we look at how things relate to Polk County, this visual shows what number of live births we had in any given year from 2007 through 2022. And then what is our market share of kindergartners 5 years later? This starts to help us understand what is that range that we might have for future kindergartners. The starting. I think this page is in your projections. It shows, or your presentation, it shows the enrollment by grade. And this is the starting point where when we start to look at some of the students and how do they move through the system. So we have some larger grades that are graduating and then some smaller grades that are coming into the system. So that has a factor that when we start to look at the cohort changes, this map or this visual, where we see red, we saw decreases. Most of those were back in the COVID year. That was experienced quite a bit throughout all of the districts here in the Iowa area. What we're trying to understand here is just by the grades, how are things changing? Like for instance, we typically see a positive increase from 8th to 9th grade. And that's as we see the robust programming that we offer. Other students that would be private, parochial, homeschool may want to come into the system. So it's a general thing that we typically see. We also look at migration of students, understanding who's coming into the district that's new and who's left the district that we were receiving services. We provide that where we look at it at each of the grade bands of elementary, 6th grade, middle school, and then high school. We've looked at it for the last 3 years to understand how has that changed since COVID. And so generally speaking, it's been positive. So that's a good thing that starts to point towards more students in future years. On this visual, I look at it as it's by each building. So you can see, are there some emerging trends at the building level to understand, is it related to programming? Is it related to some of the developments that are happening in the community? One of the bigger things that's important in your district is open enrollment into our schools. And we can see Des Moines gives us the most number of students that don't reside in our district. We've been pretty stable, almost 500 open enrolled positive kids into our district. This is a reason that we can do some different things with programming and whatnot in each of the buildings. Other visuals help you understand where that change is changing throughout the district. So green is where it's decreasing, orange is where it's increasing. And this is changing year to year. So we're just showing you a stagnant shot of 5 years ago to now, but it's always changing. Just because you see an area that's increasing doesn't mean it's not going to decrease next year. And that's how it gets into some of the statistical analysis. Visuals of where our students are. So this is the heat map. And the red areas are where we have the greatest concentrations of students. And so if we look north of Altoona Elementary, that's where we have some of our greatest clustering of students. Also have some out by those apartments near Delaware Elementary. Again, so a lot of the things for enrollment say positive. So as I transition into developments, one of the things that we try to benchmark is what's happening with these 3 variables. Population, which is the green line. So we have census population of students. Positive above zero, quite a bit of population increase in our community. Stands to reason with all the development. The blue line represents our certificate of occupancies and what has happened year to year. And so we saw there was a huge bubble of units that came online 2 and 3 years ago. So that's part of the machine of how we get some of our students. But then the red line represents our enrollment change year to year. So it's kind of oscillated a little bit. Where the last couple of years, it has not been as much as what we've seen in years past. So that was kind of a factor as we looked at your enrollment forecast. Remember I said we had these planning areas? Well, this starts to get at what are those yield rates. And so we have it broken out by each of the elementary buildings. And simply stated, that bottom row of that table, we're trying to say what's happened over time. So in 2014, we were averaging about 23 kindergarten through 5th grade students for every 100 single family units. And when we look at the amount of units that we've built over this time period of about 2,400 units, we've decreased to 20, but we've built 2,400 units. So more units, still getting a lot of kids. We do the same thing with the multifamily enrollments. To again, understand that when you see multifamily developments, sometimes, and in the case, if you look at that bottom row, we're about 10 students fewer for every 100 units of students that we yield from multifamily compared to single family. So don't get too alarmed when you see the multifamily units, because a lot of them may be studio or 1 bedrooms. Mentioned we look at a lot of the county data sets and city data sets. We look at what the average year built is. So this gives a visual of what's the oldest, which is the blue areas, and then what's the newest as it emerges to the red. We've also looked at the median home values. Again, all these variables tie back to each of the planning areas so we can understand what's the statistical propensity of having X number of kids. Is it increase or decrease? We've looked at where the units have been built over time. And so the dots represent where those clusters are. And so there's quite a bit of activity throughout our district. This is showing the last 5 years. One I want to spend a little bit of time on that I think starts to say something is changing in your district. So what we've done here in this graph is provided you the number of units that were available at the start of the decade. So that's the orange part of the bar. The blue part of the bar was what was built in that decade. We look at that last bar, that's only 3 years. And we've built already about 2,200 units. So we still have 7 more years. So if you just said, okay, if we built 2,300 units in 3 years, what will that mean if you triple that? This will be the best decade of housing being built. Is it the right amount of housing or right type of housing? That's another question that we have regularly with the city, because affordable housing is a key issue at the city level. From all the information from what we've gleaned from the developers, the meetings with the cities, we've created a map that showcases where development potentially could happen, where it is happening, and where it potentially could be. Green areas represent where we're currently seeing activity. Yellow is where we should see it within 5 years potentially, and then purple out closer to 10 years. This is always emerging. Every year that we do this, it changes based on who owns the land and what the economic indicators are for their units to be built. So again, this table here starts to break out by each of the elementary attendance areas. Where are we going to see that growth? And so this is where, when we look at Clay, Delaware, 4 Mile, Mitchellville, those are the areas where we predominantly are going to see a lot of the new units come online currently and in the next 5 years. Again, we also did a deep dive into your economic development outlook of jobs and what it means to live in this community. And so this is highlighting some of the things that if you go to the city information, you're going to see a lot of this. And we've pulled it back. What do we think for our assessment? So again, development, lots of development, think a lot of good things that will drive future kids if you want future kids. If you say we don't want more kids, then it's not a positive, right? So again, depends on your needs. So when we get into the projections, what we're showing you here is really kind of a transition. The past shows where we were with our old grade configuration. As we look at this black line moving forward, this is our new grade configuration of how the buildings are aligned. So red is the elementary, purple is the middle school, and blue is the junior high, and green is the high school. And so right now, this last year, we were right at 7,100 students of K-12 students. And then we're growing towards 7,600 by 28, 29. All of this information is explained on the next page. We've listed off each of the buildings, and we show what the capacity is for those buildings that the district provided. And then we show some different variants of the enrollment in the past to understand what's happening based on each of those attendances, specifically as it relates to elementary, right? So everybody goes to middle school, junior high, and high school buildings. So when we look at this for Altoona Elementary, and what you'll see for every building is the middle row green font is based on where students reside. So when we geocoded those students, where do they actually reside? The bottom row blue font is attend. So from that student data system, where are those students actually attending? We try to fine tune this a little bit by showing you the top row purple fonts, reside/attend. It's a subset of reside. So it means they actually resided and attended that building. And so it's always going to be smaller than the reside. And what this shows you is the difference from that reside/attend to attend is the students that we picked up from some of the other elementary attendance zones. Some of this is related to where programming is, where programming is not. Could be babysitting, could be a whole host of things with two addresses in the system. One address shows in Altoona and another might be at Clay Elementary, but the primary address we got said Altoona, so that's the reside and they're attending Clay, right? So there's different reasons for that. We also have shading where things would indicate what's happening with it in relation to capacity. So when it's over 100% of the capacity, as we show at Clay Elementary, you start to see that orange shading. The natural matriculation that's been happening of students that are going to other buildings has kept the attend, or for the next 3 years, we should be under that capacity. But after we get to 27, 28, we're beyond what that capacity is with just even the reside and the attend. So that would be a building we're saying, hey, we may need to watch that. There may be some things that need to happen to move some of those students to one of the other buildings where we have space. We also see some different shifts with enrollment at each of the buildings that again start to have further conversation once you've digested this and had more conversation with her to really understand what does this mean and what are some of the strategies you may want to deploy to have efficient use of your buildings and your staff. We show the same thing at the secondary level, and really have plenty of space at the secondary with some of the decisions you've made. And really positions us, which is why I spent time on that growth slide. When you look at this going to be the greatest decade of units built, we're really positioned in a nice place to plan for the growth now that you have some of these building decisions put in place. So my last thing, projections, observations. Come back to this page to try to understand some of the things that we start to talk about that could limit growth or things that could like be positives towards growth. As I get into our next steps, really annually reviewing this information is like an insurance plan. Are we tracking where we are? Do we have the right things happening in our buildings and how we staff our buildings? Are we positioning ourselves if we need to go out for an elementary building? Are we in that right timeline? Continue to monitor the things that I have on the bottom part of this page, which is what's happening with LiveVerse, because that has a huge impact on what we potentially see 5 years later as kindergartners. Continue to watch our senior classes that tend to be as large or larger than our incoming kindergarten classes. That has an impact on our growth potential, migration trends. That's always emerging, and we showed that on that migration bar chart of the ins and outs. And of course, the development and the timing of those developments. Those are key. Another subset to that is the type of development that's being built, what's affordable and what's not. Things are changing as the baby boomers move on. There's some opportunities for people to move into places that we've maybe not seen a lot of kids. So there's going to be lots of conversation over the next few years of that transition. That's all I have for you guys. I spoke really quick. Questions, comments?
Kind of go back, an earlier slide, you don't have to go back, but it was more on the open enrollment piece where is there a heat map for that that kind of tells us where those, are they closer to the, our west side? That they're just, because we've got Pleasant Hill that's happened. And because the question comes up with open enrollment, like, where are these kids coming from? And when we get the open enrollment, like this time, there's a lot coming from Des Moines. So I guess is there a way to heat map that?
There is, and right here, so here's the heat map. What we could do is just isolate for those open enrollment kids and specifically hone in where are they just outside your district boundary. So absolutely, I'll make that as a note too.
'Cause I mean, my first thought would be, well, they're probably coming from that west side of Pleasant Hill, Des Moines area, and you know, you're probably, I mean, we see a few, like when it says Bondurant, you can tell exactly where they're coming from, but or Colfax or wherever, but the Des Moines, it's kind of hard because they've got such a big district. So is anybody else interested in that? I don't want to probably do all that work,
Yeah.
but okay.
Okay, for sure, can give you that.
Yeah, I really wish we had the whole packet ahead of time, so we could ask. I wasn't prepared to ask you questions. We got your last 5 pages. We didn't see any of the maps. I'm just real disappointed, because this is very important. What you shared was very important.
Apologize for that.
That would be my fault, Rick, and I didn't know how deep into it everyone would want to be beforehand, so I'll set it out. soon
Well,
as
this is
we're-
just the initial. This is just the initial piece anyway, so it's kind of.
This is that.
So
I
will
do
you
get a lot
be
more.
coming back for additional discussion later on, or is this our only chance to talk to you?
There could be more chances, Dirk and I can
Okay.
talk through it for sure. We're doing a lot of work. We're doing their facility master.
Yeah, I find this very interesting, so.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, you can visually see it, but it's nice to be able to put it in perspective and say, yeah, we're right. There was a few spots that I was kind of, you know, not shocked, but just kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, so. I mean, 4 Mile Will, I guess Willbrook was the kind of the one that really surprised me, because being an older on the, when we talked about the, I figured it would be at capacity. Where we're kind of, looks like we're, make sure I got this right. So the blue is the full attendance, the green's people that reside, the purple. Well, there was no purple in that one, but
Yeah, for the project.
well, for last year's projections, so you got 401 that reside attend. So then you have, I'm guessing that's the 70 or, because those numbers don't really add up, I guess.
Yeah, so let me explain that to you. So we'll look at Willowbrook. So there's 401 that reside and are attending Willowbrook. There's 470 total that reside there, but only 401 are residing and attending.
Oh, okay.
And then the 490 gets at who actually is attending. So there's 89 other students from one of the other elementary buildings that have an address not in Willowbrook that are coming to.
Yeah, because when I look at that building, I think it just seems like it's just packed.
So with Willowbrook specifically, is that because of some of the in-migration and out-migration that happens during the year around that area? Or because are these numbers at the end of the year or middle of the year?
Great question. So these numbers are the official count numbers.
Mhm.
And so what this gives us is that baseline from official count to official count. And so it gets what potentially has happened with the during year growth, to
Right,
what we will see when we get to official count of each of the next consecutive 5 years.
okay.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the capacity looking at this, because I get the feeling that we're, getting pretty full. But then when you look through here, Clay is really the only building that looks like it's an immediate concern. And with that, even the number that actually attend it, there's still room. And then you've got total, like we have capacity, am I reading this right, for another 1,000 students at the elementary level?
Potentially. Now, I will give you a caution to capacity. And I know district administration probably can even add more to this. Capacity is kind of a fickle number, right? So depending on what that number includes, is that a functional capacity? So does this take out spaces that you use for special programming? Things of the nature that at the elementary level wouldn't be like homerooms. So let's say you have ELL, special education, gifted. So if this number includes those spaces being used as core, then this will maybe get at some of the questions you have that we feel fuller in buildings than maybe what that number represents. So that's something that's always revisited with capacity to know how does that relate to the enrollment and the services that are being provided.
So are these numbers actual numbers then that are based off of functional capacity, or is this based off of square footage of how many people we could fit into a room?
That is one I'll punt to the district since we didn't do capacity.
Yeah, those were developed as the buildings were constructed,
So
with
square
the-
footage.
basically looking at a classroom, and I think in most cases, putting 25 students per classroom.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if we could, I don't know how often that's revisited, but get the real numbers on the capacity based on how we're using the space.
Mhm.
So that we know if we're getting closer than this looks. Yeah, so I wonder how those stack up if, you know, got I don't know, we're using the space for certain programming today that requires fewer people in a room, maybe some special education or something like that, then that we might be closer to capacity than we think. I mean, it kind of goes along with Brett's open enrollment thing too, with just where is that growth, and is it coming in from that open enrollment, you know, on the west side of the district versus the east side?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I guess with Willowbrook, you know, I don't know if we could really put any more kids in there. I mean, 585, that would really. I mean,
No, I don't know.
and then, Dirk's gonna hate me for this, but the high school's capacity, I think, is 2,400. And there's no way to that. We can put 20, which we're safe in that area for a while, but
Yeah,
when you look at what realistically, and I don't know how you do that versus calculations, because yeah, it's calculated by square foot per whatever, but when you look at the high school, if we would have kept going, I mean,
No.
you couldn't squeeze another kid in there. I mean,
is our capacity the same between junior high and high school? So they both say 2,200.
No.
Well, at the time with the new middle school and then the junior high, you add those two. Yeah, they had similar capacities. It's junior high and high school had similar capacities.
okay. 2,200, yeah.
I'm just curious, and see, it says K-5, so reside, attend, that include preschool, as all buildings have a preschool.
No, this would just be the K-5,
K-5, okay.
which is another thing that ties into your capacity is preschool takes some spaces out.
It's preschool.
Yeah.
So it's actually.
Any other questions for Rob?
I think this is really interesting. I'm excited to see the full report and dig into it
Mhm.
further.
Likewise, thank you. This is really confirms some things, but it also brings some new things to light. So really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for the good of the cause?
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
thank you.